Good. All right. Call to order. You doing that? Okay. You hanging there?
Where's my cheat sheet?
Is that it?
This is one of the cheat sheets. We can use it for today. It's yes. Okay. We doing roll call?
Yeah.
Oh wait, do we do the flag salute?
Oh, okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Okay, Ms. Bollenbacher.
Here.
Mr. Chandler. Here. Ms. Compatello.
Here.
Mr. Lavasser.
Here.
Mr. Marks is absent. Mr. Oliverio.
Here.
Mayor Perry. Here. Solicitor Corbel.
Here.
Engineer Minsterman.
Here.
And myself. We have a quorum.
All right, great. All right, the consent agenda,
Oh, geez, where were you? Oh, you. I'll explain it. I'll explain it after the meeting. Mr. Radilla is also here. I'll explain to you after.
all right, the consent agenda. These items were attached on the OneDrive for all of council. This is the minutes from April 28th of 2022, along with the bill list from May 12th of 2022. Looking for a motion to approve the May 12th, 2022 consent agenda.
So moved.
Vince,
Second.
second. Philip, any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. All right, public comments on agenda items. At this time, citizens may address the Crafton Borough Council on any issue appearing on today's agenda. Only residents and taxpayers of the borough will be permitted to address the council. Comments on non-agenda items will be taken at the end of tonight's meeting. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them before council, who may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Please sign in or raise your hand on Zoom and state your name and your physical address for the record. Right, we have 2 people signed in, and then we'll check Zoom. Mike Crown. Yeah, oh, yeah, you have to go. I think it's on.
Mike Crown, Fire Chief, Crafton Borough.
I don't think the bottom. Yeah, it's. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, Mike Crown, Crafton Borough Fire Chief. Wanted to discuss the other night, Tuesday night, we went out with all the markings on Crafton Boulevard with the new streetscape stuff that's been going on. Just wanted to enlighten everybody. There were some council people, which I appreciate, that came out for a little demo. I think it was pretty clear that what's marked up there is not correct. It's not going to work. I know Mr. Minsterman has his theory that the models show they worked. They don't. What I think engineering looks at is perfect situations. It's not a perfect situation. You're looking at people making 911 calls, fires, property, life at stake, updates from the county 911, all those things play into effect. We even had a tough time making the left onto Crafton Boulevard from Bradford. So went up Bradford, cars at the stop sign, couldn't get around them. Actually, we had to delay 2 or 3 cars before we can even get around the bend. Went up to, I sent a letter to council back in October about the Perrine Bar Avenue situation. Could not make those turns up there. Came back down back to Noblestown Road back up to Baldwick. Couldn't make the turn. Some of the big things that I see a problem, we're also putting some streetscape at the corner of the alley. I think that's Vance Alley that leads back to Creighton. So another big problem, can't get a truck back in that alley now with that, the drawouts of the curbs. we don't have another way to get fire trucks in the back of an elementary school. So if you think of fire service and people want to, have conversations, Rick, I can explain that you catch the hydrant at Crayton Avenue, you'll go up, turn into the alley for the elementary school. That area is blocked off. You need a second means of ingress and egress. You can't make the turns if you put those proposed jots out. So you can't make the turn onto Crafton Boulevard on the right. Can't make the turn into the alley. You go up to Crafton Arms or Crafton, Bradford Arms Apartments. Again, where the curbs are, you can't make the turn into the apartments.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of issues there that just don't work. And I don't know what more to say. I know that the contract's out there. Nobody would never shared anything with us. I thought after the last time I sent information to the borough about the bar, Starrett Street stuff, that maybe we'd have some further discussions. Secondary to that, now you can't make the turn onto Bradford, Dinsmore, the alley in between. I can't remember the name of the alley. I'm bad with those names. But those are all 3-story big, heavy fire load construction. How do you get trucks into those alleys? Because there's a, pushing out of the curb, narrowing of the street. So, big issues. I'm here to let you know that it doesn't work. We did it. We drove it. The person driving it was a truck driver CDL, has I think he said 8 or 10 years experience. So just doesn't work. Now, you guys have the ability to do what you prefer, but there's a huge liability situation if you just leave it as is. And I'm here to just tell you that the situation's not good. And I know that somebody mentioned drive up over the curbs. Good thing. Out on Noble Avenue, turning onto Bradford, making the right. Years ago, model said, you can make that right. Well, after about 5 tires, a couple rims, and trucks being out of service, it was decided they were going to lower the curb because it just didn't work. So I think we have a little bit more experience in those types of things.
So I have a question. What area are you specific? Because you've mentioned a lot of various areas, because there's
really none of them worked. If we drove, we had Aaron in the truck and Colton, and they just didn't work.
Yeah, but what area?
So bar, Starrett on any way a bar coming, Starrett from Green Tree headed to Green Tree, making any of those turns do not work. You're going to have to post those probably 40 feet, if not further, in order to get the trucks to swing around the bends. We almost caught the side of the truck making the right with the stop sign. So then coming off of Baldwick Road, making the right onto Crafton Boulevard, couldn't make that turn, had to do some backups to get it to turn around that bend.
Why would a truck turn right coming from Green Tree to go into Crafton?
Well, because anything up on this end or anything on Bradford, Dinsmore, Lower Crafton, that's how they're going to go. We can't go into Bradford Arm Apartments off of Bradford Avenue.
But they wouldn't be coming off of Baldwick.
Yes, Green Tree would come off of
Oh,
Baldwick.
Green Tree.
Yes.
So Green
Yes.
Tree's truck. you're
Scott
talking
Township
about.
would come off of.
Okay, so you're
Yeah.
talking about those trucks,
Yes.
not our trucks.
Yeah, well, we wouldn't come that way, but mutual aid does come that way. We can't get into Bradford Arms Apartment. You can't make the right on Bradford from Bradford to Crafton Boulevard, then make the left in the Bradford Apartments. Can't do it. There's the angle of approach and the angle of descent. It's too great. Can't get the trucks in it.
But aren't there other ways for trucks to come in to Crafton besides
You
just
can't,
Baldwick?
so what you're going to say is in that situation, a couple extra minutes, take it. So if your loved ones, people or dogs, cats are needing a fire service, we designed something. So you have to go around to make it more difficult for people to get to the scene. Does that make sense? I mean, I'm
Yeah, I
asking, it's just,
Yeah, I just want to make
so
sure.
those situations people don't think, and I'm going to be the guy on the camera saying, well, you know what? It is what it is. We knew this, but it is what it is.
Okay. Okay. Does anyone in council want to address that, or do we want to wait for the report?
So I'll go ahead and respond that we have done all engineering studies. And we have revisited them
Yep.
in response to that. issue as well. And the intersection is designed to all relevant standards and all normal standards that are to code at this time. We have a lot of intersections that are tighter and narrower than that. And I have full faith in our fire department that they are able to navigate and drive on those intersections. We are trying to make that intersection as safe as we can. But we do acknowledge that it is unsafe for people who are speeding on a regular basis, and it is unsafe for pedestrians at a regular basis. We know that there is a larger risk for pedestrians being hit in the street and for car accidents to be happening in the street than for fires. It's a bigger
Do you have
issue.
statistics to that? Can
There
I
are
see the
statistics to
can
that, yes.
Can I see those? Because
We can
I've never
certainly
seen
share
those
statistics to
statistics.
that, but
Have you
also
done a traffic study up there?
that intersection is designed to all relevant standards. And I
So what you're saying then is it's designed to a model.
I am speaking.
It's designed to
I
a
have
model. It
full,
didn't work.
I'm sorry, I
Mr.
am
Crown.
speaking. I have full faith that our fire department is able to drive in all intersections that are in this borough. And we have many intersections that are tighter than that. And we have made sure that that intersection is up to code in all applicable standards. I know that it is always difficult to adapt to something that is a little bit different, but the paint that is out there will allow our fire department, if they're uncomfortable with the new form of the street, to be able to practice and
work.
become comfortable with it. I have seen the video of the trial that was done, and I have seen the amount of space that was left. So I do know that it is, again, we have ensured that our engineers have checked that this is applicable, that it is in adherence to all standards. We have made sure that there is the ability for the fire department to practice and become comfortable with this new configuration. But we are making sure that the intersection is safe for all users. And we will continue to make sure that that is in adherence to standards for intersection radiuses and for sizes.
So do you have a traffic study that says that there was speeding in that area? Do you have a study that says that? Because you cite that there was speed and auto accidents. Do you have any of those studies? I could tell you, we did a study. We actually did it. It did not work. The models did not work. So if you're claiming what you're claiming, I understand what you're saying. The model worked, the engineering worked, it did not work. It's not something that we're feeling comfortable. It's not a comfort. It is safety of the residents. I'm
not
telling you,
sure how
you're in a
long we're
liability.
speaking tonight, but yes,
Well,
we
can
did
I
do all
answer your
studies.
questions?
And
And you
yes,
made
we
some
did
comments?
also give you the opportunity to test it. And we do have a video that shows that you did test it and that there was available space to have made the turn in a different manner. And I understand that it is very difficult to accommodate, to get used to a new
Yeah.
situation. But
nothing
the
to do
fact
with
that
that.
this
Okay.
will be
It has nothing
ongoing
to
for
do with
some
that.
months,
So what
you
you're
will have the
subjecting has
chance
nothing to do
Okay,
to
with
get
our
used to the
comfort.
new
We drive the fire
configuration.
trucks
Please.
all the time.
We're going
So
to
what you're
stop.
saying is absolutely
Mr.
not
Crown,
factual.
Mr. Crown. Okay. So we've taken the comments. I will ask Mr. Misterman to address some of the issues during your report. And we've taken the comments. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
If the residents
Mr.
knew
Crown.
what's going on, it's tragic here.
Okay. Next is Regis Patton.
Okay, are we still on? All right.
Yeah.
Good. My name is Regis Patton. I live at 29 Maplewood. I've been a resident here at the community for 34 years. I'm Scoutmaster of Troop 147. We have been a member of this community as of today. We are celebrating our 110th year being a Scout troop. In that time, we've done multiple service projects for this community, a couple of which, one was the lightning detector down at the Crafton pool and the dusk dawn lights at the pavilions. Over the past 6 years, we have held our biggest fundraiser, which is our car cruise / car show with Pittsburgh Cars, who is one of the bigger clubs in the area that have classic cars, antique cars, so on and so forth, and our sponsor, Crafton and Rotary. I talked with, at the time, President Laffiser last year down at the park when he was waiting for another Eagle Scout from another troop to show up about potentially having it at the Crafton Park, because we've been holding it at the Crafton Ingram Shopping Center. Pavement, it's hot, it not safe for a lot of people for a lot of reasons. He told me that sounds like a great idea and to get back with him this year, 2022. I went to the admin office. I found out that I had to talk with Mr. Doug Sample, who has been very helpful in talking with me and relaying things. I brought up the idea. He said he needed to bring it to council. And that was, I believe, early April. By the end of April, and after a council meeting, I did not receive a verdict or any approval or nothing. I heard nothing. I found out from some couple council members that I am aware of that the information was brought up. I'm not going to say their names because, you know, don't want them to get in trouble. And they had told me that, no idea. No. They had told me that it was brought up, but it was up to the rec board to make that decision, and that the chairperson was supposed to get back to me about it. So I've not, again, have not heard anything on that matter. The fundraiser funds my boys going to summer camp, doing projects for the community, putting uniforms on them because some of them can't afford it. I mean, Scouts is not cheap. So I guess my question is now I see a flyer for June 4th, and I'm trying not to get too agitated. It's kind of been a while since I public spoke. But yet we didn't get any sort of feedback from anybody. So I guess my questions are, you know, why didn't I receive a phone call? And two, why is it now a fundraiser that we've been doing for 6 years is now being taken over by the council without even bringing anything up? At least that's how it feels to me and
Right.
my parents and my boys.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
do you want me to, I can stand here? Or I
Yeah,
can sit?
it's up to you. Because the fundraiser, which is I think you're referring to the vendor and car cruise on June 4th.
Yes.
Okay, so that was put together by the Recreation Committee as part of their projects for the whole year. I have no idea, excuse me, no idea if there's any type of conflict with that. When was your event planned?
August 27th
Okay,
is when it's planned, but that's going to more or less take away from any potential, you know, some of these guys don't want to take their vehicles out more than twice a year. I mean,
Okay.
you would too if you had a nice
Yeah.
Mustang, but
right. So I mean, I don't know, Doug, have you talked to the Recreation Board about it?
Yes, the rec board did meet on Tuesday night. They were originally had the vendor fair, and some of the vendors said, hey, if you add a car cruise piece to it, it might bring more people. And then they also added a movie in the park that evening. So the vendor fair was the main piece, and they added the car show before your request. And I mean, they're looking at maybe 4 or 10 cars is where it's not to compete against yours at all.
okay. I mean, if that's the case, that's fine. I just, you know, we're all of a sudden, this is what we see and we're like, whoa, wait, what? So, I mean, if these are the answers that are what they are, cool.
Yeah, Mr. Patton, I
Yes.
believe there is no intent to compete with the Boy Scouts on
Okay,
this.
then-
We have a committee that rolls from recreation, and they're coming up with ideas like one event a month. And I think it rolled through the committee that this would be a good idea to have in the park, along with all those other things, just like the fireworks. And we already did a car cruiser truck thing back in September, I think it was, which was pretty good with a movie in the park.
Okay.
And
So since I have your attention here, and I'm sure you guys will relay things to the rec board, August 27th,
Mhm.
Are we able to have a car cruise? What
yes.
potential?
So all the details for that, can go right to the rec board, and then they look at all the things that you're looking to do that day, because they have to figure in parking and traffic and if there's an event going on and anything, but that can be worked right through the rec board. And I don't know if they talked about it last night or not.
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I think it would be great if you could team up with the rec board, and actually I encourage everybody to team up with the rec board, whether it be the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, whatever organization. If you have an event, that's the proper avenue And with regards to the chairperson of the rec board is actually Jacqueline, my wife.
Mm.
So I don't want there, it seems as if maybe there's
That's-
a perception that Jacqueline took your idea, which was definitely not.
Those were, you didn't even need to say those words.
Yeah, well,
So-
I'm just, but if there's that perception, I don't want there to be that perception. And I definitely think your organization is valuable, has done a lot of community service in Crafton. And as you know, the former mayor and I have always been very supportive of all the activities, even when we have somebody that sort of doesn't have an active, the situation with a one scout. We've always gone above and beyond to try to work with our citizens. So I really hope that this is a good segue for you to work with the rec board. And we encourage everybody to get involved with the community. So hopefully, you can maybe put on another event or maybe join forces for June 4th. I don't know if that'd be too
Well,
soon.
I mean,
Or if they postpone theirs, I don't know.
Well, that's the other question. Like if I could, if, I think, Mr. Sample, you have my contact information. I don't know if you can pass it along to Jacqueline, you said her name was? Okay, that would be helpful because if we can plan it out to where we could have the event August 27th down in the park, it's sunny. We all become lobsters after the event, even with putting suntan lotion on. So I just kind of want to make sure. And we have a lot of older individuals that bring their cars and the heat is rough on them too.
Mhm.
So I want to just be able to have a nice shaded area to where they can actually sit down and, enjoy, walk around. So, but, all right. Anything else?
No.
No? Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right. Any hands raised? On Zoom?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, great. All right. The next item is the president's report. One thing I want to mention is that at the last meeting, Mr. Lavasser had brought up a strategy session for council. And I thought it was a really good idea. And I wanted to talk a little bit with council about putting together a strategy with objectives for this year, 2 years, and maybe even 4 years down the road of projects, goals that we have that we want to accomplish over that time period, and really having, outside of maybe a council meeting, this would be obviously a public discussion where it would be separate and focused just on strategy. So that we have a lot of stuff going on, and where do we want to focus for this year, like I said, 2 years or 4 years down the road. So I just wanted to get thoughts from the group.
I think it's a great idea.
Sure I do.
Approve.
Yeah, we don't have to approve. It's just something that if everybody feels like it's something that's very valuable, I think it also would help staff to direct and have some goals and objectives around everything from inspection or the code enforcement, the whole way down to just the administrative side. And of course, all the projects that we're working on. Okay, so if everybody's good with that, I'll send out a doodle poll and then we'll announce it to the public as a public meeting so that public can join. All right, that's all I had. The mayor's report.
I don't have much tonight, except to let the community be aware that the closure of the Thornburg Bridge for reconstruction is going to be upon us in June. The current plans, we've been told by the state, are during the week to have at least one lane open with flagger, and when possible, one lane each way. There are plans for total closure over the weekends. So there's going to be some interesting, pardon? 2 or 3. I just said 2 or 3?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't have that information from the chief. So that, right, that okay, so there'll be 2 or 3 over the course of the summer. All right.
Over the course of the project.
Over the course of the project. So anyway, we're going to have that be coming up, and you're going to want to take that into account. in your driving and in the traffic we're going to see coming through town.
Mr. President,
Yes.
how long is that construction going to take?
I don't know how long.
They're looking at a year, year and a half.
Okay. Right. Anything else? Engineers report, Mr. Minsterman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Two things to report tonight. One is just a quick update that part of the one of the items in the engineering committee or the engineering meeting that was discussed was related to the electric car charging stations. And we had reported that we had met with Duquesne Light and their grant program associated with providing these locations. And after those discussions, and the grant contributions are somewhat minimal, and then it was just determined that those facilities just would not be able to be self-sustaining. It would cost the municipality a significant amount of money over time, even outside of the initial capital costs that it would take to do the installation. So that information was brought, and seems that that is not a good option for Crafton at this point, and that the direction was to look at just the possibility of using charging stations for the Crafton fleet, which is obviously just a few automobiles, but just looking at the economics of utilizing, there is a grant program for that as well. And so we will be looking at that briefly and reporting back. The other item is the obvious one, which is the discussion about the streets and the turning radiuses and the revisions to the streets that are being proposed. So I'll start by saying that all the work that we're proposing is absolutely in accordance with the standard traffic design standards. And those standards have turning radiuses for large trucks and different style of trucks built into them. So Gateway isn't making anything up. We're not creating anything. This isn't from us. This is applying engineering standard practices in order to provide a legal and ethical design, which is what we do as many professional professions do. So the model itself is just simply a check. It's just simply a method when folks say, hey, what about a tractor trailer? What if it weighs this much? What if it's this long? What if it has these turning points and the dimensions? And so the model can simply take the design standards, specifically the ones that we've applied for the intersections that are being designed and upgraded in this case. And it runs the scenario of various different trucks. So you can select your truck, you can pick the biggest truck. And communities use that sometimes to make decisions on not allowing certain trucks, whether it's weight because they climb the curb, or whether the clearance of parking is at a large loss. So they just disallow certain size trucks. So there's reasons to look at those. But once again, it's not that the design standards are perfect. I've never tested them to know that, but they are a national accepted standard practice. And they are also utilized everywhere throughout Allegheny County and the country. We have lots of clients that we do these very same type of projects for. And on occasion, and it's actually seldom, someone will make a claim to say that doesn't look like it's going to work. And it's folks that, have an opinion. We usually will pull the same model out, which a little bit on the model, it is a conservative model. It's certainly not meaning that there's one perfect fit to make a turn on a truck. The human error aspect of it is built into the model. So again, Those are standard software packages that are in accordance with the standard designs of intersections and just transportation in general. So usually when the model's applied, people understand and accept and move on. So, and I will say too that, you know, I have not received complaints from municipalities that said, what did you guys do to us? We can't turn, we can't, you know, articulate these locations. The improvements that were recommended by us are to improve safety. I mean, there's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of cars that pass through these intersections over time. And so the statistics are to improve the safety a little bit gets a lot of result. So I can't claim to say I know what effort was put into the national standards as it relates to fire truck articulation, but I just know that those are the accepted practices, and normally there are not complaints or problems, and I will say again, there have not been complaints or problems after these projects are completed. So I sympathize with Mr. Crown. He's very passionate about it. I know this is a big part of his life, and I know everyone admires him for that. So, you know, I'm only saying what, you know, the engineering side of this coin looks like. And I will say that we have been told by the engineering group to, in some of the other intersections, is to allow them to be widened. So even some of the designs that we've applied, we've been asked to pull them back for traffic reasons, even though we showed, once again, with the model and using the engineering standard practices, that it would work. So, you know, we are willing to do whatever it is that the client wants, but I just want to make it clear that we stand by these designs 100%, and it is still your decision to modify if you choose.
Mr. President, may I make a comment or a question to the engineer? Engineer Minsterman, was Mr. Crown in attendance for nearly 2 years to most engineering meetings when this subject was brought up? And when discussing the Sterrett and Bar intersection, would you say that the council was more than listening to his concerns? And were there any changes to the geometry up on Bar and Sterrett? And the answer is no. So my point in making these comments is the person that came and spoke this evening on a non-agenda item was in attendance to all the meetings. All right, make it very clear, had voted yes when we let the contracts, make it very clear, go to the record, no comments. All right, the planning commission put on a seminar meeting for the community, of which at that meeting at length, a stop sign was discussed at length, of which Alberto Hurricane, your engineer, spoke to. All right, and we took that comment into the model. So what's frustrating as a member of council is that a former member of council and a regarded member of the community is coming at the last moment to air a concern and levy a grievance at a point in which he voted for the changes, voted for the contracts, and now at a cost to the taxpayers is asking us to change the models or change the designs because there's some concern over their ability to adjust to the new circumstances. And I want to make it very clear, as a member of council, I look to the engineers to provide the best engineering practices. So no member of this council or prior councils is married one way or another to any of those radiuses designed. They were presented to us as being professional and accurate and constructible and safe. So I want to make it very clear that there isn't an agenda of this council or the prior council, and we all looked at those designs with open eyes and ears and had an opportunity to provide feedback to ensure that we had a project that would be properly vetted. So I really want to make sure the community understands that these projects are heavily vetted and will continue to be vetted, and your input through the process is essential. And I really just would like you to speak a little more to any of these things I brought, and to correct the record if I'm wrong.
Yes, I obviously don't remember every meeting that Mr. Crown attended, but certainly he was part of that committee, participated in that committee, obviously was part of the council. I don't have to mention that, but yes, anyone in that committee that raises, flags or questions, it's resolved, it's talked through, and a decision's made by the committee and we move ahead. So as the engineer, we don't make decisions, we provide information, and it's professional information, obviously, by trained professionals to help guide the decisions that you make. So all of that process has been going on for years, and rightfully so, as the projects that you're installing are large and forever. So yes, the traffic aspect of this is extremely minor as it relates to the complexity of the projects. And but it seems to be the issue of concern, which is not atypical. It's usually the things that people see on the surface that usually get questioned the most. And most of the difficult situations are underground and buried and never thought of again. But yes, I believe Mr. Crown was part of all of those decisions and discussions.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Not for me.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Manager, solicitor, I always skip you.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
Nothing to
Solicitor's report.
I
All right,
yield
there you
the
go.
balance of my time to the manager.
Manager's report.
Nothing further to report.
Okay, we'll go through the standing committees. Finance and Administration, Ms. Perry.
So to address the administrative assessment that is in the process of wrapping up, I expect that the Finance and Administration Committee will have a preliminary report for our next meeting at the beginning of the next month. The police report is coming along quite well. We had a on-site visit last Friday by the chief who is conducting the assessment. He spent a fair bit of time with the chief and then later with me. And he did say he was quite impressed with our community. So we expect that to be wrapping up in the near future as well.
Great. Anything else?
I think that's it.
All right. Community Services and Infrastructure, Ms. Compatello.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to begin by just recognizing our fire department for the excellent job they do in navigating a lot of our older streets. And we will continue to make sure that any new changes that we make are all in adherence with federal standards to make sure that those are navigable for our fire department and for all other drivers. I also want to go on to our agenda items. We have several items on the agenda tonight, all of which regard funding opportunities for items that came out of our recent parks master site plan. There are several grants that are due this month, and we believe that we're very well situated for those. And so we have determined some items from our parks master plan that we think are very well aligned with various grants that are due this month, and our engineer is prepared to submit for these grants. So I'm going to read through these. These are all selected because we think that they are the most well situated for success in our selection. So first is the Active Allegheny Grant. The purpose of the Active Allegheny Grant Program is to provide financial assistance to municipalities, nonprofit organizations, and councils of governments to develop community plans and design transportation projects that will, when implemented, provide bicycle and pedestrian connections to important local destinations and transportation systems, and increase residents' opportunities for physical activity. The borough will be applying for a trail feasibility study for the Creekside and Chartiers Avenue Trail. The estimated cost is $60,000. The borough will be requesting 60% of the cost, which comes to $36,000 in grant funds. The grant does not require a match, but it does improve our chances to be selected. So we are offering a 40% match of $24,000. So with that, I will make a motion. I move to adopt resolution 2022-14, requesting a grant of $36,000 from the Active Allegheny Grant Program for a trail feasibility study for the Creekside and Chartiers Avenue trails.
Second. That's first. Oh, well, I guess I can't. All right, first, second, all up for discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
All right, second, our next grant opportunity is the Greenways Trails and Recreation Program. Act 13 of 2012 establishes the Marcellus Legacy Fund and allocates funds to the Commonwealth Financing Authority for planning, acquisition, development, rehabilitation, and repair of greenways, recreational trails, open space, parks, and beautification projects using the Greenways Trails and Recreation Program. The borough will be submitting 2 grants, $51,000 grant for a trail feasibility study for, same as previous, the Creekside and Chartiers Avenue Trail. We are submitting multiple grants for this. And second, a $250,000 grant, which would be used as our match for the C2P2 DCNR grant project application, which we have previously submitted for phase 1 renovations of Linwood and Noble Park. This grant requires a 15% match, which is approximately $9,000 for the trails and $37,500 for the parks. I corrected myself there.
I was scared.
So first, I will move to adopt resolution 2022-15, requesting a grant of $51,000 from the Greenways Trails and Recreation Program for the trail feasibility study for the Creekside and Chartiers Avenue trails.
Seconded.
Second, Colton, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
All right, and secondly, I will also move, as discussed previously, I move to adopt resolution 2022-16, requesting a grant of $250,000 from the Greenways Trails and Recreation Program to be used as the borough's match for the C2P2 DCNR grant for the phase 1 renovations of Linwood and Noble Park.
Second.
Mr. Chandler, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
All right, the next item on our agenda is about the fire inspection ordinance. This is just informational at this time. The borough is preparing an ordinance update to improve our fire safety. We were working on an update to the fire inspection ordinance. This ordinance requires each commercial, multifamily with 3 or more units, assembly, such as churches, industrial and institutional, which would include group homes, to pay for an annual inspection to identify and mitigate potential fire hazards. Reasons for an annual inspection program are identification on hazards and pre-planning to ensure the safety of first responders, improve safety of the public and occupants, ensure proper operation and fire alarm and suppression systems, and be easier to maintain and manage inspection records. So that is just a general update of something that is in progress.
If I might, just to expound on that a little bit, when council had passed it in 2018, 2019, it was an inspection every 2 years. Our DJ, Daniel Clancy, would like it to be an annual inspection. So that would be the change that we're proposing from, in addition to the language cleanup, would be an annual inspection.
Why would we want to do that?
We would be in the buildings every year. It's easier for him to manage the inspections. There was a memo in the packet that outlined the request. So what we would do, this being an ordinance, we'd have to advertise it. So if there's any discussion on going from every 2 years to every year, now would be the time to voice any concerns about that.
How much is the inspection?
Good question. We were going to be revising the fee inspection. It's roughly $70, depending on things. And that would go to a $35 or $40 fee. So that we're not charging the businesses and multifamilies would still be paying overall the same amount as with the past ordinance.
Do most boroughs and municipalities do 1 year or 2 year? Is it common practice to do annual?
I've seen it both ways. Our inspector feels that it would be better managed with an annual inspection.
My concern is just putting a burden on these owners to do annual.
I think one of the things is just a couple months ago, I think it was, we did have a fire in one of the units on Belvedere. I don't know if an inspection could have helped with that potentially. But that's something that, hasn't sparked this, but it was in the works and as a suggestion as part of DJ's. I think from a public safety standpoint, it can't be a bad thing I think, to be able to do them.
I'd like to comment. So with regards to the fee structure, is that adequate, given the fact that we set that fee schedule beginning a few years ago and we updated it this year? I don't know what the delta was, which from year over year, but given the cost of doing business, is that reasonable? And to speak to the burden, I think there's no greater burden on the communities when we have these fires that pop up. And as we've seen in our neighboring communities, McKees Rocks and Carnegie, when these fires do take hold, they're devastating and can spread to other parts of, to other businesses and residences. So in the spirit of helping the fire department, and this was a idea born by the fire chief, I think ramping up to a annual basis for businesses and multifamilies would be prudent, especially as our infrastructure and the residences and businesses continue to age.
Anything else? Okay.
So the next step, I'm sorry, would be to put this, advertise it, that the borough is considering the adoption of this, and then we will we will vote on it at an upcoming meeting.
May I ask a question with regard to advertising for the ordinance? Do we still need to have, if it's going to be an ordinance, do we still need to have public comment?
I'll defer to Steve on it.
This evening?
No, not this evening. If I recall correctly, the process is we advertise, then there has to be public comment session before we vote, if I recall correctly. No?
It will be on the agenda that can be public comment at the meeting.
Okay.
As an agenda item.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Mr. President, another question for you.
Sure.
Sorry with all the questions, but given the work that you've been doing, and I believe that the borough itself is subjecting itself to the same scrutiny, could you, manager, speak to that, the progress and what you've learned and how we're applying a equal and level hand to the borough?
Yes, certainly. Mayor Perry and I, so our inspector has done an inspection on all borough properties, including library, magistrate, this building. And he has outlined some improvements that the borough needs to make. So we're in the process of upgrading our own facilities to meet current code requirements.
Right.
Thank you. We know that there will be more updates to that to come, but we know the best way to avoid issues with fires is to avoid having them in the first place. Our next update is about the Parks Master Plan update. This is a quick update. That Parks Master Plan has been finalized a few months ago as a draft. It has been submitted to the state for review. And it will go through a review period from the state before it comes back to this council for official approval. So it is with the state right now, and we will update accordingly once we find that they've approved it or requested for changes. And at which point it'll come back to council. The next update is about the multi-municipal zoning project update. At our last meeting, this council approved the selection of a consultant. At Ingram's council meeting last week, they also selected that consultant. And so we have an official, joint agreement between both councils to agree to select the same consultant, and they have been notified and will be proceeding in the next week to set up a contract with them. We'll be proceeding at that time also to identify what their public outreach plan is, and advising the community on the setup of some kind of steering committee or task force. So more information to come. The next item on our agenda is the Broadhead Sewer Separation Project update, and I'll defer over to Mr. Lavasser for that.
Thank you, Ms. Comatello. So we're going to be applying beginning of June to Alcosan for a $6.5 million project. It's going to encompass the partial reconstruction of Cornell, North Emily, Linwood, Broadhead, Belvedere, Warren, Coulter Park. It's a huge project, and it's going to be hopefully very competitive. The economics on the project are sub 60 cents per gallon removed, which is very, very competitive. The council members that have been involved have walked the streets, have worked with the engineers to look at similar opportunities for improving the pedestrian safety. So there's going to be another opportunity coming down the pike here for all of us to review and comment on said improvements, proposed improvements, but the entire purpose of the project is actually sewer separation. So as we continue to make these investments in our underground infrastructure, the goal of the council is to try to make the surface improvements. That means full depth reconstructions of several of the streets, curb to curb, including many new sidewalks. And then some of the features that we've seen in the Crafton Boulevard project, such as bump outs and some other streetscaping designs, are hopefully going to be implemented carefully and wisely. And we're looking at the economics to ensure that the economics of the stormwater project and sewer separation are first and foremost. So again, I don't want there to be the perception that there's it's a detriment to the bottom line. The entire goal is to get the most economic reconstruction project. So with that, I hope that we have happy hunting this season with Alcosan. This is round 2 for us on this project. So it's been vetted over 3 years now. And this project has been in the pipeline for over 6 years. So this is a very competitive project, as we've been told, and Engineer Minsterman can speak to anything else on this subject. Thank you.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up that project, the type of project that it is the #1 sought after project from Alcosan, because it removes massive volumes of water, and the infrastructure to do it, then divided by those gallons of water, yields to a very effective cost per gallon removed. And I think 66 cents is the limit. From 0 to 66 cents per gallon removed is the optimized project they're looking for. So this project falls well within that.
That's all. If there's any other questions, please feel free to ask them.
And what about the streets in that area too? Because you've talked about the bump outs and everything else.
Yeah.
The streets are in
Yeah.
bad shape.
Those would be full depth reconstructions. For instance, if you live on Park, you're going to see a full depth reconstruction like you did up on Sterrett Street like you did on South Grandview. They will be beautiful cartways, curb to curb, complete removal, new sub base put in. You will see new sidewalks. Usually when we do this, if we're doing a full depth reconstruction like this, we don't want the sidewalks to be non-conforming with the curb line. So I really hope that everybody enjoys what they see in South Grandview. That was one of our first separation projects that that was a full reconstruction. So we'll just look forward to more of that.
What about accessibility from an ADA standpoint?
That's augmented at every opportunity. Everything will be brought up to ADA standards, and Ms. Compatello and the Planning Commission have been providing feedback to the borough for over 3 years on how to enhance that. So Ms. Compatello, would you like to speak a little more to that?
In the Broadhead project, which covers quite a lot of ground, I don't know if there's a specific question in there, but we are doing the best we can to improve the accessibility and improve the safety along those routes. Some of those streets are very steep already as they are, and that's kind of grandfathered in, but we are doing our best to put them back in the optimally safe, most flat and most safe configuration. The engineers are looking at at situations at which handrails are required, and when they're not required, making sure that they are nice and flat, and the proper grades are provided up to engineering standards so that they're, as safe and as accessible as possible.
Any others? All right.
Well, the final item on the agenda for this committee is also the Duquesne Light charging stations, which is an update for you to give. I know some conversations have been had.
Yeah, Mr. Minster, I mean, you spoke to the progress and just a high level with the economics. It's $14K to get the stations installed with the utilities, and that means running power from the transmission to and distribution to the stations. So we would be on the hook for half of that, which is about $7K, and then there's about $5K per annum of different types of fees that the borough would have to pay. And then there's no cost recovery mechanism built in. So, and that also would include that the borough would be paying for people to charge their vehicles. So there's no cost recovery on the annual fees, and then there's no cost recovery for the kilowatts used by the people charging. So with that, it's just not a high value proposition. We have asked Duquesne Light to see if they would like to use the Crafton school parking lot as a demonstration project for them, and if they would still be willing to do something in kind and work with the school district to install the chargers and the utilities while we still have everything open. But at this point, the engineering committee couldn't make a recommendation to council to move forward with this, given all the other pressing priorities and the economics not being very favorable at this point.
Anything else?
I think that's good for this committee. For now.
Okay. Thanks. All right, communication, recreation, and community events. Mr. Marks isn't here, so the first item is the 2022 pool operating schedule. Mr. Sample.
Yeah, I can take this. When we started discussions on opening the pool, we weren't sure of the amount of guards we were going to be able to obtain. So we had initially slated the opening for June 11th. After our last council meeting, there was some discussions to see if it was possible to get that moved up to Memorial Day. I've spoken with Heather Ravenstall, our pool manager, and we will have enough guards to open for Memorial Day if that's the will of council. So unless I hear any objections, we will open on Memorial Day. Okay,
That would be great.
Great. All right. Upcoming community events, we have those on the agenda, so we'll go through those later on. Usage of amphitheater, borough, and Crafton Performing Arts only. Can you speak to that, Mr. Sample?
Council has gotten a lot of requests to use the park itself, to like basically rent the whole park out. The Communication, Recreation and Community Events Committee at this time has said that we only want to utilize it for Borough and Crafton Performing Arts only, that it's not to be rented out. Amphitheater is not to be used by anybody other than the Borough and Crafton Performing Arts.
Great. Next is the newsletter. Ms. Perry, can you speak to the newsletter? Maybe. Okay. All right. Commission vacancy, Mr. Chandler.
Yes, so as in the past, we have been interviewing people for vacant seats that we have. Currently, obviously still accepting applications for anybody who is interested in being on any of the open seats that we have on our various boards and commissions. I can't recall off the top of my head, and I should have written it down. We did manage to close out all of the vacant seats on the rec board, the Shade Tree Commission, and I believe those are the only two, if I can recall off the top of my head, that are completely closed out. But other than that, we are narrowing it down to not nearly as many vacant seats as we had. So good news for that. And I do just want to mention too that Ms. Bollenbacher and myself have been following the process that we have been created, that the council has created to appoint people to these seats, meaning typically we will interview them with a member or the chair of the board or commission and get their opinions as well before we make a motion on the table here for us to vote on. And for these two appointments that we have in front of us right now, we did manage to interview them. We were not able to interview them with the chair of the board, but we did reach out to her, and she is good with these motions as they are on the table tonight. So with that, I'm going to make a motion to appoint Stephen Pachowski to the Zoning Hearing Board for a 3-year term set to expire on December 31st, 2024.
Second.
Second, Ms. Bollenbacher, discussion? No discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, motion passes.
And then I have another motion to appoint Lisa Smith as an alternate seat to the Zoning Hearing Board for a 3-year term set to expire on December 31st of 2024.
Second.
Ms. Bollenbacher? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Doug, I'll let you speak a little bit more to this one if you want, but basically this motion that we have on the table right now is something that's already in existence, but for a formality reason, they would like it to be voted on by us to have Mr. Lavasser and Mr. Sample on the board of Chartiers Valley Flood Control Authority. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that.
This authority, I believe, was created in the 90s. They were active somewhat in early 2000s and it kind of drifted away. So they want to get this back up and become more prominent again. So this is just the first step to get the communities back in the room to talk about Chartiers Creek and the flooding and water quality there.
Okay, and with that, I have a motion to adopt resolution 2020-17, appointing Philip Lavasser and Douglas Sample to the Board of Chartiers Valley District Flood Control Authority.
Second.
Ms. Bollenbacher, second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? No? Okay. All right. Anything else, Mr. Chandler?
Nope, that's all. Just again, if anybody is interested in volunteering with the borough, we do still have some seats available on different boards and commissions, and we would love to have everybody apply.
How would you apply?
You can apply on the borough website. There is a application right on the front page, I believe, actually, to apply.
Great. I'd like to commend this committee for filling a large number of seats. We had, I believe, 27 open initially, and I think we're down to just a few, 6 now or so. So great job in a very, very timely manner. I mean, this started towards the end of January, and here we are just at the beginning of May. So thank you.
I'll have the exact numbers next week of what we filmed for next meeting.
It's been moving a little bit, but yeah. Okay, great. Okay, Council of Government COG, Mr. Badella.
Hello, so the next COG meeting is next Thursday, the 19th. It'll be at 6:30 in Carnegie. I unfortunately won't be able to make it. I'll be in Hawaii. So if anyone here can, if anyone else can step
Are
up,
you
that'd be
asking us
awesome.
if we want to go to Hawaii with you? Is that what you're
No,
saying?
no, it's a Carnegie.
Oh.
Same thing.
Yeah.
They will be having a canine demonstration, so that's pretty exciting.
Do we have somebody that can go? What? It's
The 19th,
next Thursday at 6:30 in Carnegie, because we really should have somebody go to.
Correct, and I'll forward out the email to everyone.
What time?
6:30.
I can go, but I would make my kids come with me. So I will let anyone else speak up first. Otherwise, I will be dragging some, I can attend and drag a few unwilling attendees along with me.
Oh, yeah, the dogs. There you go.
They've come to council meetings before.
Yeah. Okay. They're asking for an RSVP. I think is it Friday? I think they want it. They now made it real.
I didn't see a
Cool.
date, but
Yeah.
probably soon.
Okay. Okay. All right. Community announcement. Our next council meeting is 2 weeks, May 26th at 7:15. Seasonal pool passes are now on sale. So please go to the Crafton website to complete the pre-application. Pool memberships can be picked up at the borough office Monday through Friday from 9 to 4. Questions can be directed to the administrative office. And now those pool passes will cover from Memorial Day through the end of August. Our vendor fair and car cruise join the Parks and Recreation Board for the fun evening of shopping and voting on your favorite car on June 4th. There's more information to come. If you're interested in applying for a vendor spot or registering for the car cruise, please visit the Crafton Borough website. Crafton voting locations have changed. The American Legion is no longer a voting place. Please confirm your location. There is a website to do that, and I believe all residents that were affected by the change have been notified via mail. But the May primary is actually next Tuesday, May 17th. Okay. Any other community announcements? All right, public comment. This time, citizens may address the Crafton Borough Council on any issue. Only residents and taxpayers of the Borough of Crafton will be permitted to address the council. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them before council, who may speak for 5 minutes. Please sign in or raise your hand on Zoom and state your name and physical address for the record. Is there anybody?
No one on Zoom.
Okay. All right. Right. Does anybody have any final comments, thoughts? Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.